Joel Bitonio, Browns offensive lineman, he knows a thing or two about teams that have struggled. He played on a couple of them here for the Browns, the longest tenured Brown. He talked about the inconsistency of this year's team and just trying to get it fixed.
It really comes down to, executing each week and it seems like when we play well, we play pretty well, and we've been playing bad, we've played pretty bad. We've had a couple blowouts in both directions the last couple of weeks, but we just want to be the same team every week. I think Coach Stefanski does do a good job of being the same guy, every day, having the same attitude, and we just need to kind of take that approach as players and really just, show up every week and perform to the best of our abilities. It really is like every guy, going in the huddle, they're 1/11th each play and just being like, what can I do to, make this play work? And on both sides of the ball, really. But we do need to find a way to be more consistent, and, it starts this week.
Well, they're running out of this week's. 5-5. When you play really well and then you play really bad the next week, that's kind of the definition of a 500 team at this point.
Yeah, and Dave, in contrast, last year, at least you saw a relatively consistent, ramp up as the season went on. After, the first week, obviously losing to Baltimore, but then you had that 4-game winning streak where they were building and building and building. And sure, they had the loss to Pittsburgh, but they continued to build and build and build as the season went on. And you could see that kind of linear growth from week to week where there were different things that they were improving upon. Yes, there were still things still areas to improve, but at the same time, overall, they were relatively improving at a steady pace, and to the point where they were playing their best football at the end of the year, which is what you want to see. And the problem is that the Browns, you've seen weeks where they've done phenomenal against Kansas City, but ended up coming up just short, then really playing down to the Texans, then completely demolishing the Bears, and it's been up and down every week. It's been a roller coaster ride, but that's an understatement at this point. I'm getting motion sickness from the way that this team has been playing week to week. I look at the way that the Browns have played, and especially under Kevin Stefanski last year, where it was consistency and getting that week in, week out type of play from these guys. You haven't seen it. You haven't seen it to this point. And, honestly, like you said, it's really a 500 team at this point, and you are what your record is, honestly. And looking at the way the season has played out for the Cleveland Browns, it makes sense. And, I've tried to kind of quantify and try to figure out, how does this make sense for a team that is this talented on paper to be this inconsistent and this poor, the way that they've played so far this year at times? I don't have an answer, but at the same time, again, just they have to get more consistent. And that's the one thing that I'm looking at for week to week when it comes to this team.
Yeah, and it's both sides of the ball. It isn't one thing, and it isn't the offense, and it isn't the defense. On any given week, one aspect of football is very inconsistent for the Browns, minus the Cincinnati game where they played pretty consistent on both sides of the ball.